Senator David Pocock.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Minister, the government has spoken at length about cost of living issues facing Australians, but our frontline community organisations, from food pantries to community and women's legal centres, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander legal services, family and domestic violence services and housing advocacy bodies, are bearing the brunt of this cost of living crisis. They're seeing skyrocketing demand for their services, services that not only provide life-saving and life-changing support to people in need, but also save the government money through early intervention and diversion from the criminal justice system, or helping women get out of violent relationships. The same organisations are saying that they are extremely stressed about their funding and it's about to fall off a cliff. Will the government commit to renewing funding for essential frontline community services in the next federal budget?
Thank you, Senator David Pocock. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Pocock for the question and for his interest in this area. This, of course, is an area of priority for the government. As Finance Minister, when I came in, we did an assessment of the indexation arrangements that existed for the community organisations. They'd been inadequately indexed for a substantial period of time, and in the last budget, I think the largest measure, or it was an estimate, might have been a measure, I'm just trying to get the recollection, but the most significant investment was made into the community sector to deal with the ability to meet wage increase and other costs. Minister Rishworth has also provided additional investment into the health and the wellbeing and capability grants program, which goes directly to some of those emergency providers of food relief. We will continue to work with the community sector as we have. I've got a good relationship with ACOS and other peaks that I meet with pretty regularly, as do other ministers, about prioritising further investments. I'm aware of the community legal service issues, and again, they have been, they have, I think, been operating on very low funding for the work that they do for some time. The attorney has had a review into that. That work is before government, but we absolutely see our role with the community sector as a partnership, and we work closely with them. In terms of some of the funding, some of those grants fundings are time limited. Some of them go through a procurement process. So your question about committing funding, I'm not in a position to do that today, but our focus has been on extra support for the community organisations through direct engagement with them, and that's the way we will continue to engage with them.
Thank you, Minister. Senator David Pocock, first supplementary.
Minister, the government's been prepared to make plenty of funding commitments already before the budget, and a whole range of other things, whether it's $4.6 billion for Rolls-Royce, or $40 million to advertise and sell the Stage 3 tax cuts. Why won't you commit to ongoing funding for community legal services, for food banks? What have they got to do? They're helping so many Australians, and yet you can't actually make a commitment to fund them.
Senator Gallagher.
I think I answered that. I mean, if there's a procurement process underway, ministers do not get involved in that. Where community organisations have long and ongoing funding arrangements, we have not been focused on not renewing those or any other process. I'm not really sure about what you mean about not committing to funding. We have been working in partnership with them, and we will continue to do so. We've made extra investments, billions of dollars, in the indexation arrangements that went to community organisations, and I've actually had pretty positive feedback around that, allowing them to pay adequate wages to their workers now that they are getting properly indexed, and those indexation arrangements will continue. That's probably the single biggest investment made in the community sector in more than a decade, has been that commitment we did in last budget. On the other point, governments have to do a range of things. Yes, we have to look after our national security, we have to look after the community sector, we have to look after the health system, and that's what the budgets are all about.
Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, to your point about indexation, funding for Women's Legal Centre receives, under the NLAP agreement, indexation of 1.6% this financial year. The cost to employ a mid-level solicitor has jumped 27%. How are they meant to provide Australians in need services where the government crows about indexation of 1.6% when their fees are going, their costs are going through the roof?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister.
Yes, under the NLAP, they are not covered by the indexation arrangements that we addressed in last budget, and that is because it's under this other partnership agreement. But I am aware of that agreement. I've been talking with the attorney. It's work that is before government. Unfortunately, those opposite believed indexation arrangements of 1% or 1.2%. If you worked in the APS, you got a wage increase of about 1.2% on average over the last decade, was an adequate way to index. Well, it was lower than inflation, Senator Ruston, much lower than inflation. 1.2% per annum is much lower than inflation. So there was inadequate indexation, there was a reluctance to fund community services properly, and we are methodically working through all of those issues and addressing them at every budget, and we have been working in partnership with the community sector on that.
Thank you, Minister.